Hi everyone, back in my shed again. I'm going to do some different stuff today. It's using the Pluto trigger again. It's not really that different. It's pretty much the same stuff, but we're going to be using another piece of equipment. It's the Pluto valve, and the valve is what we use to get water droplet photography, where we can create crowns and mushrooms and things like that. So we'll be setting off different size drops at different intervals of milliseconds, so as hopefully they can collide with each other, and they'll be landing in different things as well. So I'll just flip around here to show you what we've got. We've got a couple of jars there which I'll try and use. I've got another phone there which I'm going to hook up to my Pluto trigger. I've got some food colouring, some cooking oil, a little bit of soy milk. Don't know how that's going to work. I've never really tried it before. I'll be using water as well. Here is the setup that I'll be using. So there's my camera all set up upside down, which is can be awkward, but it's necessary at this time to get low to the drops. There is my flash, Pluto trigger and Pluto valve. Now I'll just take it back a bit so you can see the full setup. Oop, there we go. There's the Pluto valve. I've actually got it on a clothes hanger thing, and it's just hooked up with zip ties. We don't want the valve moving backwards or forwards or side to side, so that's quite tight there. So I can fill that up with water up there, and it's not going to move around and change shape for the focus or the sensitivity of the drops or anything like that. So coming over just to look at the Pluto setup, here is the Pluto trigger. Now I've got one cord coming out of here, and I don't know if you can see it well on the camera, but there's a little picture of a camera there and a plug. I've got that going to my flash, and I've got the other one here which is like a little share symbol, and that one is going up to the Pluto valve. I've got this clamp here because my Pluto valve is a bit dodgy and doesn't like to work without it. So that hook up, that setup is how everything is going to fire. So when I push the buttons on the phone to set off the trigger, the Pluto trigger is going to make the valve drip, and a few milliseconds later, or probably not even that, another drip will come down and hopefully smash into the first one, creating a mushroom or some other really cool form of splash. And then we have the flash set off to certain milliseconds as well. We want a delay on the flash to catch that in motion. If we get the splash as it happens with the flash, then we pretty much get nothing. So we want to catch it a little bit after things land and start to happen, and that's where our camera comes in. We'll be setting up the camera for a 2-second delay. So a lot can happen in 2 seconds, so that gives us some time to play with. And we won't be using the ambient light around here in the shed. In fact, I might even turn one of these lights off. We'll just be using the flash to light up for almost like a long exposure shot, but the flash will freeze things in place to make it seem like it's completely still and crystal clear. I hope that's the way it's supposed to work. So I'll show up a quick trick just to get you into focusing. Focusing can be quite tricky because we're going right in, we're quite close, it's long exposure, we've got a flash going off. Splashes can be large or small. We've got foreground, background, the midground, everything to take into consideration. So what I've done here is I have actually set the Pluto off for one drop, and the drop, a little bit of green dye right down there in the middle. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but that is going to be the center of our focus point. So I'm going to pop that right there, and now I can focus on the writing, and that's where I'm going to set my focus up to. I'm going to make it as sharp as possible, and then we're going to go to manual focus and lock it in so it can't be changed. So no autofocus on this because it's just your camera doesn't have time to do all that kind of stuff. We'll manual focus it, we'll get it done on probably on the writing, the white writing there, and hopefully we get some clear shots. See how we go. Okay, so I think I'm focused in pretty well. I did have to swap the position of my flash and Pluto trigger because Yes, I have done this before, but I forget things. Turns out my IR sensor on the camera was on the other side, so I've just had to swap things around a little bit. Now, I'm going to set up the Pluto valve. I've already put water in it, which you put in the top up here, just like that. So that's full of water. Now, we have to prime it, so I'm going to turn it on. I've got something down here just to catch the water. I don't know if you can see it on my camera here, but there is a tube inside. It's that tube there. So that goes in, you can see it going in there. And what we have to do is prime it to get the air out. So we just push this little button down here, which lets some water out, and you can see, boom, boom, boom. Now we've got bubbles coming out. That's what we want. So now we're ready to go ahead and test out some water droplet shots. So I'm going to have a bit of a practice and see how we go, to see if I can get something, and when I've got something correct, it might take me ages, I'll take a quick video and show you guys how it works. One thing I did forget to mention, you're probably sitting there wondering, well, he's got everything hooked up to his Pluto trigger with his cords and flash and Pluto valve and all that kind of crap set up. How is it going to trigger the camera? Well, that's an easy one. We do have an IR sensor on the Pluto trigger. That's the great big round thing there. And what we're going to do is use that to remotely trigger the camera. I have an IR sensor on my camera, which is down there somewhere. There's some black dot thing. So what we're going to do is turn on the camera's IR remote functionality, which it's all upside down. So let's see, should be that one. And oh, there it is. There's my remote. It says off, and I'm going to turn it to on. Now that's on. Okay, so here is the Pluto trigger app on my other phone here. This is set up on Droplet. I'm not going to go into those settings just yet. I will show you how to do the remote. So infrared remote right there, single shot, camera brand Nikon. So if you're using a Canon or some other kind of camera, you can click on that and there's a list of cameras down there. So you just pick your camera. I want Nikon because Nikon's better than Canon, and I'll just go for single shot because I just want to go one at a time, see how we go. Now that that's on, when I push the button on my other phone, which has the Pluto trigger app on it, the Pluto trigger will send an IR signal to my camera, making that go off, and then the flash will go off and the water will drop, and I think that's the wrong order, but it should be something close to that. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so at the moment I'm absolutely stoked. I'm getting some brilliant crowns out of doing this on the glass with various liquids and so on. So far the best seems to be milk. Milk is working absolutely brilliantly. You can see I've got a little droplet there. I'll just quickly set it off so you can see what's happening. There we go. Now that doesn't look like much, but once you get the picture in camera, it's coming up absolutely brilliant. We're getting a beautiful crown. It's looking unreal. What I'm going to try and do next is pop a little bit of food colouring just into the milk up top. So you can see I've got the, where are we? There we go. There's the milk inside the Pluto trigger. Now that stopper that we put in has got a little hole in it. So I'm just going to drop some food colouring down in there and give it a bit of a wiggle to stir it up, and after a few drops it'll work its way through the tube and start changing colour down the bottom, and we should get some more interesting effects there happening as well. So wish me luck. Okay, so I've had a bit of a practice run here, made a little bit of a mess. So I've just been dropping water into a puddle of milk. I've got a flash power of 1/28 at the moment. Let me just check the camera settings and I'll show them to you as well. So camera, info, what have we got? Alright, so that's all upside down, but I have a shutter speed of 1 second, an aperture of f7.1, with an ISO of 320. And the last shot that I got, I don't know if you can see that there or not, but that does look pretty cool. You'll be able to see it in the photos later on. So now I'm going to leave that as it is, not touch anything, and I'm going to try experimenting with some different colours, different textures and things like that. But what I'll do is I'll also spin the camera around and I'll show you just how it's all working. Alright, so here's a video of how everything's currently working, if it wants to work properly. So all I simply do is push the button on my phone down here and click. Everything takes a photo and it's all done well good. Hopefully well good anyway. Now the settings that I have on the Pluto app, the flash delay is at 390. The first drop size is 25, the drop delay is 60, and the second drop size is 15. So you can change all of those. The flash delay and the drop to delay is all in milliseconds. So that's how quick everything happens. There's the setup. And hopefully everything goes well. What I'm going to do is put in a small puddle of milk. This one's got a bit of red dye in it. Doesn't look too flash, but as long as it looks good in the picture, that's the main thing. Now I've just got to double check, make sure that my remote is turned on, which it's not. It's turned itself off on the camera, that is. It does that if you tend to leave your camera alone for a little while. There we go, all set up. Now I'll take a quick shot and we'll see how that looks in post-production. Okay, so now I'm moving on from crowns and I'm going to try to get some collisions or mushrooms, if possible, happening. And this time it's by pretty much doing the same thing, except now we are changing the levels of everything. And this is where changing things to the millisecond comes in crucial. Now we're going to be using more and more 2 drops instead of just 1 to create a crown. So there's the setup now. I've just got a little jar and that's going to drop. I'll just push the trigger so you can see it's just going to drop right in the middle like that, and we've already got that focused up. Now what I have to do is time the drops apart. So we get 1 drop, and as the surface tension and the ripples make the drop part go up, we want the second drop to come down and hit it on top. This can take quite a long time to set up because you're always changing the milliseconds of things and the flash delay to get that right collision moment caught in time. So I'll see how I go and I'll let you know the settings once I've got it right. Okay, well I've been at it for hours now. I changed a few settings. I've got over 400 shots. It's just a matter of putting them through Lightroom and seeing how they turn out. I did change the settings for the jar instead of using the glass, and I actually got some magnificent shots. I hope we'll see how they all turn out after post-editing. But as you can see, I'm feeling a bit tired and I've made a shitful mess. I'll clean it up tomorrow, she'll be fine. But the settings that I used for the Pluto trigger were a flash delay of 510 milliseconds, a drop size of 50 for drop 1, a drop size of 30 for drop 2, and a drop delay for drop 2 of 90 milliseconds. So That seemed to be a bit hit and miss on some of them, especially depending on what kind of liquid I was using. Some turned out great, some turned out meh. But overall, I'll just pick the best ones and put them up and let me know what you think.